The views and opinions expressed on this show are not meant to be used as medical advice. Consult your doctor before implementing any health or exercise changes. The Fire Within encourages you to do your own research and aims to spark interest and motivation to a healthier lifestyle. The Fire Within podcast. You need a sustainable plan, the right mindset, and the knowledge and inspiration to stoke the fire within. Just like the phoenix, you can burn your old habits, never turn back, and emerge completely anew. There are no shortcuts.
Welcome, Fire Within Nation. This is the Fire Within podcast, where we dive into all things nutrition, fitness, and health related. I'm your host, Brandon, joined by my co-host, Joe.
Hello.
And here we are. We are on day, 6, 7 of the U.S. version of COVID-19.
Yeah, it feels like it's been a long time.
Still healthy enough to do this, and we're not quarantined just yet.
We're in the new studio, so we can all be this mandated 6 feet apart.
That's right. Amazing new studio. And today we have a special guest. I'm really excited about today's episode. With us today, Kimball Sargent. Tell us a little bit about you, what you do, and why we're here today.
Thanks for inviting me to be your guest. I'm Kimball Sargent, and I'm a holistic self-care coach. And for most of my life, I have been an entrepreneur and a holistic psychotherapist. And about 14 years ago, changed things up and went way more into the holistic realm, leaving the medical and the nursing behind and moving into helping people live their best lives and be well through natural solutions.
That's awesome. For those that don't understand what we mean to distinguish Western medicine versus holistic approach, can you tell us in your words what those differences are?
Western medicine and Eastern medicine are talking about the same thing. The East has definitely been talking for a lot longer. But in Eastern medicine, all disease is related to the blockage of the chi. So what is chi? Chi is life force. In Western medicine, we really are looking at what would the chi be? What is life force? Well, that would be oxygenated blood, and that would be nerve conduction. And so we really are talking about the same kinds of things, and then there's a difference in the approaches for treatment.
When people hear natural or holistic, they think this woo-woo, nonsensical stuff, but it's really achieving the exact same thing. So for instance, Western medicine, oftentimes there may be a prescription medication that will help to create better oxygenated blood or help the nervous system, whether it be healing. Whereas with Eastern medicine, we're more concerned with what can we do naturally that doesn't involve a synthetic or artificial way to achieve the same result. And there is science behind it. It's not nonsense. So that's a great distinguishing between it. And I think it's also important for our listeners to know that both of us respect both Eastern and Western.
Absolutely.
And there's a place for both. But Eastern are the things that we can control without a doctoral degree.
That's right. That's right. And Eastern medicine has been around much longer than Western medicine. Western medicine is really still in its infancy. It's kind of like the United States. We're a very young country, and Western medicine, as we practice it today, is a very young practice.
Right. Your current practice, what types of things do you work on with people?
Well, what I tell people is if you're not living as well as you want to be, then we have to look at the whole thing. And I look at the whole person. I look at mind, body, family, relationships, finances, and their spiritual realm. And when we're talking about a healthy body, then you've got to look at all the things that it takes to create a healthy body. And it really goes to the immune system, which right now with people so interested in the COVID-19, the one thing that we can control in this whole thing is how we support our immune health. There is absolutely no way to kill COVID-19. Medicine does not have anything to give us. So what do? Well, you've got to support the immune system. The people who are most at risk are those who have more compromised immune systems. It's the people 60, 70s, and 80s, pregnant women, and people who have depressed immune systems. And that's all the people that may have an autoimmune disorder, and particularly the ones with that who use medications to suppress the immune system. It's your AIDS patients who are showing symptoms, and it's your people who have cancer and are on the cancer drugs because they also suppress the immune system. So the one thing that everyone can control is how they're supporting it.
Right, and with this going on right now, and getting to know you some, I thought it would be perfect to have you on today, especially everybody stuck inside. So download my podcast. Give it to a friend.
That's right.
So let's talk about some of the different things that we can do. One of the things we discussed was the importance of sunlight.
Sunshine does kill viruses. So one of my concerns is everyone is shutting in, and I think it's good. And one of the things I want to clarify here is everybody's talking about social distancing, and you really don't want to be doing that. You want to be physically distancing. So you physically distance 6 feet, but you really need to keep the social thing going. And I'll talk about that more in a few minutes. But when we're talking about the sunshine, you can go out in your backyard or just outside. You want to be outside at least 10 minutes a day because you want vitamin D. Vitamin D is essential for the immune system, just being out in the healthy sun. So like if you live in your own home, go out in your backyard and sit down and spend that time in the sun. And I have a second recommendation, because for people that haven't looked at it, grounding is an amazing way to stimulate the immune system. So when you're outside, sitting out there, take your shoes and socks off and just put them down directly on the grass. It may seem like such a simple thing, but when you're doing that, the Earth's surface has all of this negative charge that's extra. And when your body comes in flesh contact to it, it binds with free radicals. And that has almost magical consequences for your body. And it's one of the best ways to stimulate your immune system. And you know what? It's free to go outside and sit and ground.
Right. And remember, all these positive charged ions, that's what feeds inflammation. And so nobody would think it's woo-woo to eat berries for antioxidants. It's doing the same thing, but at a much larger scale.
Oh, absolutely. I think the last time I looked, National Institute of Health has 30 articles on grounding and what it can do. And many articles say that the best way to get antioxidants is through grounding. I mean, you're only going to eat so many berries or cherries or blueberries, whatever you're eating.
Plus you get the sugar.
Absolutely. And fructose has its consequences if you're eating it in large amounts. But when your feet are in contact with the ground, or, if it's warm enough and you just want to lay down there, the more surface you have, the better you've got. But it's like taking handfuls of antioxidants and putting them in your body. If you think about when you were kids love to lay down on the ground and you see them outside. Well, there's a reason. It really does make them feel good.
Yeah. I don't remember if I mentioned it on a show or not, but one of the first studies or one of the first things that led to people studying this more was there's this child that would cry and cry and cry and cry unless the mother was holding it outside, walking around barefoot in the grass, and they didn't know why. And they come to find out later that child had Crohn's disease. And its entire intestines was inflamed and painful, but that grounding effect with those negatively charged ions would calm that down. And that was why anytime she walked barefoot, it would stop crying.
Absolutely.
So it's pretty interesting stuff. Now, I know there's different products because since we don't always have access, especially people in the north, if it's snowing outside, you're not going to stick your feet in the grass. Do you recommend any products? Like I have a grounding sheet at home I use.
Grounding sheets and grounding pads are very, very important. One of the things when you're choosing one is you want to find out how much silver it has. Because the way the grounding pads work is the threads are covered with silver. And the silver is a conductor. And so you want one that's made that and well made. And then the more you can ground, the better. The research on grounding is this. When you put your hands on the earth or you put your hands on a grounding pad or grounding sheets like you have, within 15 seconds, the muscles in your face start relaxing, the brain waves start relaxing. In 45 minutes, flow of blood to the organs that are blood drinkers increases, and it also improves the viscosity of the blood, so you're decreasing chances of blood clots and things. But once you get 8 hours, then the magic really begins. You see thyroid panels improving. You see blood sugars improving, inflammation markers going down. And one doctor has written and talked about that she really believes that if you ground a lot over time, that you will decrease your risk for heart disease and decrease your risk for cancer. So if you have a grounding pad or grounding sheets, Then you've got it in your bed with you 8 hours every night. If you work in a place like where we're at now, when I see all of this electronic stuff, it's a great idea to have a grounding pad and have your feet on it when you're working, because we take in a lot of bad charge. So, you want to look for these. My company has one that I really love. I sleep with actually 2 every night, and I love it.
What's that brand or the product?
The product, my company is Nikan. It's a Japanese wellness company. They've been around for 45 years, done business in 40 different countries. And the whole idea is to bring products that put the body in the position to heal itself.
Well, this is a long-term approach, which is what my show's about, is what's holistic, what's sustainable. Sometimes we still need a more acute fix, like if you broke a bone or something, Western medicine's fantastic. But I did want to point out, so the Western side of things may be a blood thinner. The Eastern side is this grounding, which
Absolutely.
has science-based, evidence-based efficacy of doing the same thing, except you don't get all the prescription fees and some of the side effects.
That's right.
Now, that's not to say if you have a significant issue that you don't need those things to stay healthy, but this is just something proactively everybody can do with almost no cost that can make a big difference.
That's right.
Yeah. What's another thing we can do to help our immune systems?
Well, we're going to do the grounding, and you're getting outdoors. Sleep is crucial, and people in the United States, we are the most sleep-deprived nation out there. Research shows it over and over again. You really need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Teenagers actually need more because their bodies are growing and at such a rate that they need more, and they hardly ever get that. But when you cut back on sleep, it really hurts your immune system. Now, some people will say to me, I can't sleep 8 hours. I would just be laying there in the bed. And Deepak Chopra, the other year, he was at the Integrative Health Forum when I was up there in New York, and he said, lay there. It doesn't matter. He says that close your eyes. You can't sleep. Just accept it. You're not going to sleep, but you close your eyes, concentrate on your breathing, try to keep your thoughts to a minimum, and just stay there in the bed for the 8 hours. He says when you are laying there in a meditative state, relaxing, that your body will be repairing itself in the same way as it does if it's asleep. And, right now, people aren't getting out as much. They're going to be home. We're kind of under lockdown. So having those 8 hours in the bed may be a little bit easier. And it's extremely important at this point because stress levels are up. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainties here. And sleep is one of the greatest gifts that you can give yourself. You want to keep your bedroom cool, not cold and not hot, but keep it cool, have it very dark, and just relax and spend that time in the bed.
With us being indoors so much during this quarantine period, it's even more important to get that sunlight, especially in the morning.
That's right.
Because with vitamin D, that's also going to help with natural melatonin and serotonin, which is going to make you feel good.
That's right.
Because we're already kind of in a panic state. I'm going to admit it, I'm scared. I mean, our livelihoods have been cut off. I don't know what's going to happen. So with all those factors, having that sunlight in the morning can help boost serotonin. So we're not dealing with this hard of a hit of depression, suicidal thoughts, and all the things that can happen with these circumstances.
That's right. And one of the things I'd recommend, there are a lot of people, and I don't believe that you can't live in fear and faith at the same time. So when you start feeling yourself, and a lot of times when people lay down, that's when all the fear starts bubbling up. And so creating some type of affirmation for yourself that you say over and over again that moves you away from the fear to the faith. I'm a big lover of Louise Hay, and my favorite affirmation by her is everything that comes from this situation is working for my highest good. Everything that lies before me is good. I am safe. And when I get in hairy places, I will listen to that. If you need to hear somebody else's voice, there's probably 10 million affirmations and meditations to sleep by. Turn on your phone 6 feet from your bed because you don't want that radiation, and put one of those on that you're listening to as you're laying there and resting. And those are just some great ways to calm yourself. Remember, we have to take care of ourselves. It's all about self-soothing.
Right, that's great advice. Now, going back to even if you can't fall asleep but being in that meditative state, does that include going through Instagram and Facebook?
Nope.
No.
In fact, before you go to bed at night, if you want really good sleep, you want to get away from all screens for an hour. You also want your phone plugged in at least 6 feet away from your bed because it is a little radioactive device. And when you have it there laying beside you, it's going to change your body's electrical system. It's going to charge it up. So those are important things. Exercising somewhat 5 hours before bed can be also very, very helpful. A lot of people say, well, I need to exercise in the morning, and I like to exercise in the morning because it gets me going. But about 5 hours before, and, people say, well, what if I can't get out? Well, you can always jump rope, do jumping jacks, do some yoga. Again, YouTube is great. There's a million different yoga instructors. Yeah. Choose the one that you like, but do some type of exercise. Also, I recommend people do not eat at least 3 hours before they lay down. And, part of this is balancing out of the hormones. But another piece, if you eat something just before you go to bed, then your digestive system is working. And really what you want to do when you lay down in that bed at night to sleep, you want all the systems to be able to just relax down and repair and rest and get ready for the next day.
Right. And something we touched on talking together earlier was something called the glymphatic system.
Yes.
With a G. And that's the brain system of restoring, which is why you're recommending that 3-hour window.
That's right.
So if you can have as much blood flow going to that repair process, the glymphatic system is what gets rid of amyloid plaque. That leads to Alzheimer's, dementia, memory loss, all those different types of things. And on this note, there's quite a bit of benefits to intermittent fasting.
Oh, absolutely. One of the things we talked about this morning that I'm very intrigued with is children don't seem to be getting COVID-19. And the groups that are in the highest risk are the people who have the lowest levels of the human growth hormone. One of the things we know about intermittent fasting is that it helps raise the human growth hormone level. And what that means is going 16 hours and then having 8 hours that you eat. Personally, what I do, because I try to get in bed by 9:30. Sometimes that doesn't happen, but I cut off all my food at 6 in the evening, and I go to bed, and then my first meal is about 10 in the morning. And so with that, I'm getting my highest level of human growth hormone. Now, if you want to reduce your weight, if you're trying to release fats, that is great because when that level is higher, you're going to release weight more quickly. We know that memory is better. If you and again, it plays with all the neurotransmitters. All the science out there shows that there are benefits. Now, there are certain people, if you're a type 1 diabetic and you are on insulin, then intermittent fasting is not for you. Yeah. You've got to more or less feed the insulin. But for most other people, there's just not a downside to intermittent fasting.
And especially with us having immune concerns, we know that increases immune function.
That's right.
And there's something else called autophagy, where when you're in a state of not having constant caloric intake, the body starts getting rid of abnormal cells.
That's right.
So this can help fight cancers and all kinds of other things.
Yes.
When you guys were talking about sleep earlier, it made me think of a conversation I had with my wife this morning. I have 2 teenagers.
Yeah.
And they're sleeping in. And I said something along the lines of thinking of it from like a productivity angle, like who knows how long they're off of school, but we should probably make them get up and get ready and not get so far out of the habit. But maybe that's bad advice for parents right now, instead of just letting your kids sleep so that their immune system can be healthy.
Well, you want them to get their sleep. Now, there are times that are better for the body to sleep, which is sometimes a problem with teenagers. Because
right around noon is where my kids are still in bed, where I start to get concerned.
But what time are they going to bed? Because, see, that you have the melatonin in the body. If you go to bed between 9 and 10, the melatonin is released, and that's when your body gets the best sleep. What I find about teenagers as young people is they'd prefer to play games and stuff, stay up till 2 or 3, and then sleep in until noon. And now, if they're going to be up till 2 or 3, they really need to sleep in till noon.
But they're not getting the best quality of sleep.
No. If everybody would sort of work on that, trying to get in the bed between 9 and 10 and then getting up, I mean, that's the optimal for the body.
Right. And what all this is going back to is circadian rhythm.
Yes.
So starting with that sunlight early in the morning to set up your hormones for proper melatonin release later in the day.
That's right.
So getting light in the morning, getting to bed on time, works in tandem with sunlight, which changes our hormones.
That's right.
We have receptors in our skin and our retinas that takes in all that lighting for hormone cues. So people having trouble sleeping, maybe this is a good time to reset.
Oh, it's a great time to reset because, and then when we actually go back out into the regular world, whatever that looks like, then our bodies will be in top performance to take on whatever's going to happen.
Now, before I forget, we were just kind of talking about intermittent fasting, and earlier that led to us discussing, we've had clients that undereat and to count calories, not to count calories. One of the things you mentioned that I've never put the thoughts together was that people that undereat, or even if it's to lose weight, whether it's for athlete-related stuff, as there's muscle wasting, I've never put this thought together. Your heart is a muscle.
That's right.
And you could be wasting away some of that muscle function of your heart, and it's not uncommon for people that struggle with anorexia or even that starve themselves to, even for a movie role, whatever, to end up with strokes, heart attacks, and things like that.
That's exactly right. When you starve yourself, the body starts breaking down proteins and the muscle. And so it will go to the muscle and break that down to pull the proteins out. People with anorexia are at a much higher risk for cardiac symptoms. Many years ago, there was a great singer, Karen Carpenter, and she had anorexia. And she actually recovered from it and was getting back into her career, and she had a heart attack at 29 and passed away at her home. And that's not uncommon. There have been singers. Luther Vandross was a singer who he yo-yo dieted. He would be, I guess, probably close to 400 pounds, and then he would be like 178 pounds, and then he'd go back up. And this went up and down, and he died of a stroke. I do a lot of work in teaching teenagers and working with parents on diet and nutrition to help with school. And one of the things I find is kids are just not taking in protein. They're eating a huge amount of sugars and a huge amount of grains. Cereal in the morning, there's no protein there. There's a ton of sugar, and they're getting these grains. Then at lunch, and I'm thinking back from a parent that gave me what a kid ate the other day. He had like 3 Oreo cookies and some gummy bears and some chips, and that was lunch.
Yeah.
And then came home and mom says he can't think. Well, that, even though you're taking in calories there, your body's still going to do some breaking down because your body's got to have protein. Your brain has got to have protein. And protein has got to be there in order for your immune system to function well. And I recommend a minimum of 60 grams of protein. If you want to be a vegetarian or vegan, I got no problem with that, but you've just got to figure out where you get those proteins from. And I think as a society, most people think they're doing pretty well until I will talk with them and let's write down and look what you've been eating. And then they find out most everybody in this society is protein deficient.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then some go in the other extreme. What are some of the concerns of too much protein?
Well, if you get too much protein, particularly animal protein, which is the people who are eating too much protein, primarily it's people eating animals as source, then you're going to build up those uric acid levels, and you can get a lot of health consequences. I mean, it's a balance. I tell most people that I recommend that they find a good, healthy protein shake to use along with eating healthy proteins. And I like things that don't have soy, don't have whey, vegan. I love things with pea proteins, but you want to make sure it's not too high in carbohydrates and that they're not sticking a whole bunch of sugar in it. I mean, you want a healthy shake. And preferably something that's got a lot of probiotics.
Yeah, I like collagen as well. I'll use that. Some of the better ones I've found, I think Lifetime Fitness is a great line. And then also Vega.
Right.
Most of his, I don't think they're soy-based.
Right.
Is there anything that you would recommend?
Well, in Nickin we have one, and I've always been impressed with it, but I've got one lady that I worked with. She actually used to work at Lifetime Fitness as an instructor, and she has a weird autoimmune disorder that prevents her from absorbing enough nutrients. And her doctor at the Mayo Clinic was absolutely blown away with her nutritional level. And he had her bring it in, and he said he says this thing has got the most vitamins and minerals. He said, keep doing this. She's been using it now for 4 or 5 years. And I'm not saying that you need to live off of shakes,
no.
But in order to get what you need, and there's a whole nother piece, and we won't get all into this, but our soil is not what it needs to be. So, Popeye would have to eat 100 pounds of spinach a day now to get what he used to get in a few cans. So, there are some type of supplementation you need to do, but find a good shake. And, most of these shakes don't taste great, and kids don't like that, but, find a good shake, and it's your job. They make it nutritious, your job to make it delicious.
Yeah, I like that. They make it nutritious, you got to make it delicious.
That's it.
Yeah. Now, going back to the whole losing weight too quick, starving yourself, that's why a more sustainable approach is so important, 1 to 1.5 pounds. You see these amazing transformations, but they take place in such a short amount of time. I just want our listeners to consider the detriment it could have on their heart if they are, along with that body weight, losing too much lean muscle tissue. So I always try and recommend a more sustainable approach of 1.5, 2 pounds a week max,
right?
To make it healthy and not have some of those effects that we don't think. Like, I've never even thought of that. In 6 years of doing this professionally, it never occurred to me that muscle wasting your heart is a muscle.
Absolutely.
And I don't know why it hadn't crossed, but I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you.
We've talked about sunlight, circadian rhythm, and sleep. We've talked about protein.
Have you guys heard anything about, have they made any recommendations about our greenways? You would think the parks would be super busy right now, but there don't seem to be many more people out walking around.
Right now, we're allowed to go. It's outdoors. You can keep a 6-foot distance, get outside, get exercise. That'll boost the immune system, get fresh air.
Absolutely.
Well.
People need to be moving. And with my clients, I've been talking to them about how, should we not be able to go outside very much, on how they can do things in their home, because the body was meant to move. I'm a knee instructor, which is the whole thing is based on moving of the 52 joints and what that does for your body. And just sitting down, and what I worry about with our teens is them just sitting and being on video games. You really need to be moving around. I remember as a kid, the gentleman that lived across the street from us was a diabetic, and I used to love it. Every evening after he ate his supper, he would go and he would just walk round and around his yard. And I didn't realize how smart he was at that time. But, that's a brilliant thing to do. And for people that want to lose weight, that's a great thing to do. And again, most people are eating, about that 5 hours before they go to bed. So it's a great way to get your body moving, the exercise, and also improve your sleep.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of home exercise things you can do. If you have a set of stairs in your house, there you go. Have at it. Just be mindful of your joints and your knees. Don't overdo it. You can use your chair, do chair squats. You can curl all them cans of food you bought. There's great stuff online, tons and tons of ways to stay active.
I think one of the things that crossed my mind, a concern that I had for people, is it's kind of feeling like for some people like a snow day. And so they're like, no rules, we're doing what I want, we're sleeping in, we're eating gross, and we're just doubling down on bad habits that our routine prevent us from, which can really be, is what you guys are saying, probably the worst thing to do for our immune system, which is the thing that we need to be paying attention to.
Well, the eating gross, buying chips and breads and sugary things and dairy, all of these things are going to depress the immune system and create inflammation. Inflammation is at the base of all illness. So when you do those things, it's almost like, you're asking viruses and bacteria just to come on over. We've got fertile ground here for you to grow.
Absolutely. So, and I'm sure some of it's a coping mechanism for the stress and anxiety. I know it is for me.
Yes.
For sure. And I think it affects all of us. Any particular healthy recipes or any healthy foods that you recommend in a situation like this?
Well, I'm telling people lots of leafy green vegetables, and if you've got any room in your freezer, you can, pack it full of frozen broccoli. I'm a big believer in rice cauliflower. That's my comfort food, and I'll make fried rice. In fact, yesterday we went to Costco and came out with 5 big bags of that, and I made some today for lunch. You want to get the nutrients. If you get the green vegetables, and right now it's funny when you go to the grocery store, most of them seem to have plenty of salads and things. And as long as we can get out and get that, you want to be eating it. I kind of cringed when I heard one of the doctors on TV say, go out and get 2 weeks of canned food. Well, prepared food is crap. I mean, that's really what it is. And it may fill you up, but it doesn't nutrient you up. And so as long as we can get those things, making runs and getting as much fresh or frozen as you can and eating those things. And if you get enough protein and you're eating those high-fibered greens, you're going to feel stronger, your brain is going to work better, and your immune system's going to be much, much stronger.
Yeah, so even like canned vegetables are pretty devoid of most nutrients, you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. When they put them in the can, the process, they have to raise the temperature. They have to be heated. And so once you do that, they just do not have the same nutrient content as a frozen vegetable does.
Yeah. And people used to ask me, is frozen okay versus fresh? And the truth is, often frozen may have more nutrient content. Sometimes they're picked early, flash frozen, and all kinds of things. So I think that frozen could be fine.
Oh, absolutely. And, I recommend people that are really looking at nutrition in their life that they get a freezer. A deep freeze is great because then you're able to buy the vegetables and have them on hand. I mean, we bought the largest freezer that we could get at Sears, and we keep that thing filled. If you have it on hand, that's what you're more likely to eat. Sauteing in coconut oil is great. Coconut oil is antibacterial, it's antiviral, it's antifungal. You can put it on you and in you, and it comes out great. I use lots of garlic, and one of the things you want to know, garlic is antibacterial, but one of the things, the healthy products of garlic, once you chop the garlic, you have to eat it. If you want it to really be a medicine, you eat it in 15 minutes of chopping it.
Okay.
I was doing a class on spices medicine the other year and learned that. It'll still give the great taste, but like if you're using it for medicinal purposes, you can slice it, but saute it quickly and then go ahead and eat it. Ginger is great. Ginger is awesome for the immune system. Hot ginger tea. Lemon. In fact, starting out the morning, I start out every morning with a cup of hot water with lemon in it. Chinese medicine highly promotes that. But these are just really little things that you can do that are going to boost that immune system and make you feel better. And it'll also keep your brain healthy and functioning the way you want it to.
Have you ever felt like you were just throwing weights around like an idiot at the gym, hoping to see some results? Or after weeks or months of working out, notice that the scale just isn't moving? You wouldn't cook without a recipe, so why would you train or start a weight loss program like the Swedish chef randomly throwing ingredients into a pot? You need a sustainable plan that's science-based and attainable. Fire Within has worked with thousands of clients and helped them reach their goals. So visit firewithinnf.com today. Get yourself the free ebook, read the testimonials, and choose a service that works for you. Choose from services like one-on-one nutrition coaching, one-on-one personal training, and more. Again, that's firewithinnf.com.
Now, what other recommendations would you have for our listeners?
Well, we haven't talked about hydration, and hydration is one of my very favorite things because in order for your immune system to function properly, you have to be hydrated. And I said we were the most sleep deprived, but we may even be we may have more of a problem with dehydration than we do with sleep. In order for your body to be hydrated, you need to drink half of your body weight in ounces of water per day. And when you drink things like coffee and colas, then those are dehydrating, and you really have to drink a little bit more water to correct. People over the age of 65, the number one reason that they're hospitalized is dehydration. And what it is
Can you say that again?
the number one reason that people over the age of 65 are hospitalized is dehydration.
Wow.
And there's a reason for it. So older people start getting worried about falling, and a lot of them have not exercised and kept exercise up, so they're weaker, and the more they drink, the more they've got to go to the bathroom, and they don't want to move around. And then at night, they can go hours before they go to bed without drinking because they don't want to have to get up during the night. This also, I want to point this out, raises the risk of heart attack during the night. When you are dehydrated, you are much more likely to have a blood clot. You are much more likely to have a heart attack. And so when people stop drinking about 6 o'clock at night, and they're not going to get up till 7 or 8 in the morning, they're putting their body in a real state of dehydration during the night. So hydration is key. Now, the bottled water is coming off of the shelves. I'm not a big fan of bottled water because bottled water is not regulated. I'm not a great fan of tap water. I think you need to filter your water, but at least with the tap water, you know what you're getting. So if you want to improve your immune system and help yourself along with this, in the morning, the first thing you want to do is get up and drink about a pint of water. In fact, I recommend people, when they go to bed tonight, that they have 2 pints by their bed. The 1 pint is for every time you get up and go to the bathroom at night, you drink a little bit of water. You don't have to drink a lot. Just, you've been to the bathroom, just rehydrate a little bit. But when you wake up in the morning, drink that 16 ounces. And that is just refurbishing your body. It gets your brain going. Our body has to detox. All the toxins in the body go into the cell, and they just hang out there. And the only way that they're going to come out is when water goes into the cells. The way dialysis works is that they push water into the body and into the cells, and then they pull it back out, and that pulls out the toxins. So what you do each day, the water you drink, it's going into the cells, hydrated, it comes out. And then during the day, you want to be drinking, you sip. Chugging water is not a good thing because it doesn't go in as well. So you want to just continuously, have a glass of water with you and be sipping along as the day goes by. And I recommend that you I don't want you to get OCD about tracking it, but I know for me, my goal is always 80 ounces a day. Your brain is 80% fluid. So when you aren't drinking, then just a 1 to 2% dehydration messes up your mental function. This again goes to those older people that are a high risk there, because mental function is dependent on them being hydrated. And again, they're one of our more dehydrated age groups because of not wanting to go to the bathroom.
I wonder the role water plays in that lymphatic drainage system too.
Oh, huge.
So if you're dehydrated, even if you are getting to sleep, can it do it? I don't know. Probably not very well.
No, it's not going. Everything depends on hydration. Every system. And, the lymphatic system, it's a fluid system.
Right.
So if you don't have the water, you don't have the right amount of fluid, you don't have the right amount of fluid, it's not going to flow.
And then one thing I think for people to remember with the lymphatic system is it doesn't have a pump like the heart does.
That's right.
So you're the pump. If you're not moving, your lymphatic system's pretty stagnant.
Oh, movement is huge. The other thing that I recommend is, and this can 2 ways. You can get it from contact with the Earth's surface, which the Earth is the largest magnet in the world. And so when you come in contact with magnets help fluid move. It helps blood move, and it helps the lymphatic system move. The other thing that you can do is, actually there was a study done in Europe on using magnets to help with anticoagulants for people who had blood clots and all. So wearing magnetic insoles, sleeping on magnetic beds, wearing different things, anything that you can do that helps that system. The lymphatic system is huge because the lymphatic system is what's going to grab the virus when it gets into your body. And those of us that have healthy immune systems, it may be able to take care of it. You might never know you had it. You might just be minimally ill. But if the lymphatic system isn't strong, that's when these things take control. Same's true of cancer. I mean, everybody has cancer cells in their bodies at times. But if their lymphatic system is strong, if their immune system is strong, the body can take care of and get rid of those cells.
Yeah, a lot of good information there. Just a few things I wanted to pull out. So going back to dialysis being kind of the Western medicine approach.
Right.
Just drinking water being the holistic approach.
Right.
So if we do that, now that's not to say people don't need dialysis.
No.
But it's doing the same thing. It's functioning the same way, and they're both important.
That's right. And, renal function is... it's essential for life. And if we want to keep our kidneys, our renals working, then we want to be pumping that water through because that's what keeps them going and makes them happy.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did want to ask you about, there's something called the sodium-potassium pump that allows us to properly use water. And I know so many people are deathly afraid of salt in their food. Sodium and potassium, they're literally electrolytes. We need them to function, and we need them for that sodium-potassium pump to work and allow us to utilize that water. What would you say as far as concerns with salt and other ways to get in the proper electrolytes you need?
Okay, well, yeah, salt's a big deal. And the reason that doctors tell you not to use salt is that in the United States, what people primarily take and use in a salt is sodium chloride. And sodium chloride is terrible for your body. Sodium chloride is pure white. And the reason it's so pure white is they take chlorine and they bleach out all the minerals and the good parts of salt that you need. So when you put that on your food, it swells you up, it raises your blood pressure, it does all kinds of bad things. When you travel into other areas of the world, when you see salt on a table, it's gray or it's pink. Or I actually buy my salt from Hawaii because the volcanic salt actually has charcoal and the highest amount of minerals. The more rich in color the salt you're using, the more minerals it's going to bring into your body. And you need salt. And there are doctors who don't exactly understand that, but I promise you that if you are using a mineral salt and you're not, just shaking it all over, and most of the time when people start using mineral salts, they don't use as much because it gives a flavor. But you want to be using that on the food that you eat each day, and also supplementing. I'm a big believer in supplement for magnesium.
Yes.
Most people in the United States are magnesium deficient. Almost every single individual who has ever been diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder is going to be magnesium deficient. So some of these things you want to supplement. And if you're taking supplements, look up the supplement, read what the ingredients are, and see what that's giving you as far as your electrolytes go.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify for listeners, if you have a heart condition, obviously you'd want to be mindful of other salt intake,
right?
But don't completely avoid it.
No.
And when you're cooking at home, Himalayan pink sea salt might be a good option.
Right.
What do you think of sea salt, like McCormick sea salt?
Well, my problem with sea salt is that we now know that the majority of the fish in every ocean in the world is testing positive for plastic because somebody thought it was a good idea to make the ocean the dump for the plastic water bottles. So I encourage people, if I'm going to use a pink salt, I usually buy the real salt. It is mined right out of Utah. It's ancient salt, and I don't have to worry about that there's any plastic material in it.
Oh, wow. That's not something that I was well versed in. That's good to know.
Right.
I eat a lot of sea salt. So.
It may be fine, but, if all of our fish are testing positive, then I can't help but think that that there's a problem with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's good advice. Knowledge bombs today.
Fun stuff.
Moving forward, once all this COVID-19 stuff passes, God willing, it'll pass soon. What kinds of changes might you expect to see? And this is just us speculating for fun.
Well, I'm hoping that what's going to happen is that we are going to see people start thinking about their health in a different way. Unfortunately, in the 20s or 30s, the Carnegies looked at the way that doctors in the United States were educated, and they saw that there was no money in holistic health. And so they were backed the ending of holistic medical education. And I think of everything. I think of things that there's an ecology in everything. In nature, there's ecology. There's got to be a balance. If you kill off all one species of animals, then you've messed it up and everything goes out of balance. Well, I think when you got rid of the holistic medical schools, then the pharmaceuticals kind of took over. And my big beef today, and why I decided that I wanted to separate from nursing and from mainstream medical, is that has now become the treatment by pharmacology. It's the magic pill. The only thing that you're really looking at is healing by pills. And people have really begun for probably 20, 30 years now to take their health for granted. They don't worry about getting sick. When I was finishing up my graduate education, I interviewed a guy who had come here from Ghana, and I asked him what he saw as the biggest difference between people in the United States and people in Africa. And what he said to me was, well, in Africa, we don't have a lot of treatments. We don't have a lot of medicines. And he said, we really focus on being hydrated and how we take care of our bodies. Wow. And, that was a while back. And I think that now people are going to start thinking about this. I hear people all the time say, well, if I get it, I'll go to the doctor and he'll give me a pill. There is not a pill for this. It's really about our immune system and how we support it. So what I'm looking at is that people will kind of wake up and become more conscious and start taking care of their bodies like they do their car. If you change your oil, that's great and you've got to do it. But if you don't do anything for the transmission, well, and so that's, it's the sleep. It's a hydration, it's nutrition, it's a moving around. It's how we integrate this. And I think it's about being well is about a lifestyle. It's not just one thing.
So the number one thing that anybody could have done is to support their immune system. And unfortunately, you can't do that overnight.
No.
That's holistic, long-term, sustainable habits.
Right.
But it is something you can be doing with your time, which is good because a lot of people are scared, like you mentioned. I know I woke up and watched the news this morning. I was like, oh, why did I do that? Because it's just so stressful. So it's nice to have something to do when there is no vaccine yet. There's no cure, and we have way more questions right now where we're at than we have answers.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it could be a lot worse. I mean, we could be dealing with Ebola. I mean, everybody has known in public health, people have known for years that another pandemic was coming. We didn't know what it was going to be. And it's true that you can't turn your immune system around on a dime, but it's just like a tree. When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago? When's the next best time? Right now. And the same with our immune system. I mean, when's the best time to turn this around? Right now.
Right. So I'm a big fan of L-glutamine, bone broth, collagen.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's one of the reasons both of us agree on limiting wheat grain and corn.
Yes.
Because it blasts holes through that lining of that small intestines. That's your immune system. So there's quite a bit. So hopefully I hope that is a change we see, just a more holistic gravitation towards that. Now, the last thing I always ask my guests is if somebody is looking to make a positive change in their life, what are the top 3 recommendations you would give them?
Top 3 recommendations is number 1, hydration. And I'm a big believer in alkaline water and drinking half of your body weight in ounces. Get a good filtration system and drink this. You will see a difference. The other one, 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. It's imperative. And the last one is your nutrition. You are what you eat. And again, start today.
Absolutely. Well, you're extremely knowledgeable, extremely well-versed, well-spoken. It's been awesome having you on the show. I endorse everything you say and do. I learned a lot from you. It's not often that I learn so many new things from someone because I've done a ton of research. But I just think you're a treasure for us. How could people find you if they wanted to meet with you?
Well, I have a website. It's wellnesssolutionstoday.com. I also have a Facebook, Wellness Solutions Today. I'm Kimball Sargent. My cell number and my office number is 919-606-6092. Give me a call. I do offer free consults, and I'm really happy right now to be doing a lot of consults. And if you like my Facebook page, I'm going to be doing quite a bit of Facebook Lives over the next couple of weeks, just giving people little tips, because I think just bite-sized things that you can do to help your immune system, and also to, help you deal with the anxiety and the fears you may be having about this, because I really do believe that you don't want to be walking in fear with this, that you control the things that you can, that is good for your immune system, and most of us will come out on the other side of this okay.
Awesome. Great advice. Great information. It's been wonderful having you on. That's it for today's episode. Stay safe out there. Keep tuning in to learn more and more and boost your immune system. We can fight this thing.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you got a lot of value out of today's episode. If you did, go check us out at firewithinnf.com. You can subscribe to our newsletters and make sure you never miss an episode or any other content. Also, be sure to follow us on social media.